Okay. Welcome everyone to the September 14, 2022 meeting of the Public Works Committee. And I'd like to begin with a roll call. I could ask our city recorder.
Ruth Causey.
Here.
David Lowe.
Here.
And I understand that Matt may be dialing in, but is not.
I understand.
Doesn't appear to be here yet.
No.
Okay. All right. I'd like to proceed first with the approval of the May 5th, 2022 minutes, which seems like a long time ago, but that was the last time we met. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. I'll second that motion. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. And with that, I believe we can proceed to the Downtown Safety and Streetscapes Communication Plan. And Mr. Workman, I assume you'll be presenting this.
In part. Let me first just say Chelsea wishes she could be here. She's being a mom today, so she wasn't able to make it. But Chelsea Starner is Assistant City Manager and is really taken the lead on, has been given the lead on the Streetscape project, specifically on the outreach to the community, to the business owners specifically. And so, really wishes she could have been here today for this. Kevin Fear and Gary Black at Public Works are going to be integral in this as well. They're going to be around the project, but this is not a city project where our city crews are out there, and it's not a city project where the city's got the contract. It's an ODOT project, but it's in the city right of way. So it's going to have an impact on Public Works. And so we just know they're going to get pulled in on this. We wanted to have this meeting with the Public Works Committee, which is made up of 3 members of the City Council. They're kind of a subcommittee, if you will, of the City Council, and they deal a little bit more of the nuts and bolts of projects before they go up to the City Council, or on things like this, where we really just want to get some better input on, specifically for today, what our outreach is planning to look like, and then to get some insights and some additional things that are going to be helpful as we start this project and continue through this project. So I appreciate all of you being willing to come today. Appreciate Kevin and Gary again doing the outreach and getting everybody to be able to be here and getting the invites out, and hope the committee members, the council members will be able to glean from some of the comments and the conversation we have. Want to keep this somewhat informal now that we got the formalities of the meeting done, as we're kind of talking through things and looking through things at any time. I mean, this is kind of open conversation kind of going forward, and more of a brainstorming. We've got some ideas we want to bounce off you. We're happy to take ideas, make some notes. And then what we want to come up with at the end of either today or shortly after today, after reviewing what comes out today, is a communication, what do we refer to it in here? Actual communication plan during the project. This is different than the official ODOT communication plan, because ODOT does their own communication. They've got a website for the page, they've got contact people. We want to go to the nth degree beyond that, right? Because again, they're not going to be contacting Pioneer and saying, hey, we're going to be there next week. We want to be in a position where we are giving that level of communication, right? This is where we were there. This is where they were last week. This is where they're planning to be next week. 2 weeks from now, they plan to be here. Here's the website, here's the contact information, here's an email that you can sign up to get email notifications, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of the hope of coming out of the meeting today. And with that,
I wonder if I could take just a moment
Yes.
and ask each of our guests to introduce themselves. You're all familiar faces with me, but I wonder if you would mind taking a moment.
Sure, I am Tanya. I'm with Pioneer Connect.
Oh, great.
Lisa Watkins with the Chamber of Commerce.
Stephanie Samuel with Applegate Door.
Oh, cool.
Kathy Harwood with Citizens Bank.
Marty Vaughn with Citizens Bank.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Thank you. In the memo, thank you, Ruth, for getting those out. I think those got distributed through. I'm looking at the bullet points. So this is on the bottom of page 1. It's probably a good place to kind of come through. So again, staff has kind of sat down, as in Chelsea and and I think Kevin might have stepped in on some of these and kind of try to plot out in our minds what we feel like is a good approach to kind of get the word out there. But that was really just in preparation for this meeting. So it's like, let's give them a starting spot for this meeting, and then let's see where we kind of go from there. So by no means feel like this is totally inclusive of everything that we think we should do, and we dropped the ball if we didn't think of something that should be on here, right? So we wanted to get a starting spot. We've put some work into some of these things already. So let's just kind of go through them, through the bullets, and we're kind of looking for, this is a good idea, this can be improved, it may not be necessary, there's a better way to do it, etc. So the first bullet point, providing and distributing a business survival guide. Volunteer assistance requested for distribution. I love that. This is the first, well, second, maybe the third mock-up version that we've done of this business survival guide. It's gone through different names. We're not really construction survival guide. We don't want the construction to survive. We want the businesses to survive, right? So it's the business survival guide, surviving construction, right? So this is how we're getting through it. In here, I was going to do copies of all these, and my copier threw up on me just a few minutes ago. And so I just grabbed the version that I had before it got messed up. But it's got information in here about the project, just kind of a summary on it. The intent of all of this, let me go through real quick, a little bit of a map, some basic information, website, project funding, where it came from, ODOT contacts, city contacts. We're going to add in here the contractor contacts, that's a mouthful, contractor contacts. We have, we pause there for a half second. We have, ODOT went through the procurement process. They have a lowest bid. They've been negotiating with that lowest bid. They had to go through a public comment period. And now, my understanding is that the contract for the work is at Department of Justice, and it has to go through their review because all state contracts have to go through DOJ. They're backed up for whatever reason, but they're thinking they'll have documents ready for the contractor to sign by the 26th of this month. Once that's signed, we'll have a meeting with ODOT and the contractor, and we'll start talking timeline when we're looking at, but the proposal is for them to get on the ground almost immediately. They wanted to be on the ground last week, right? I mean, they wanted to be here, get going before it gets too wet, because they got some stuff they want to get done quickly. So I imagine once that contract's signed, they're not going to waste a lot of time. They do have to give some notifications to the utilities and some other things before they can just jump right into things. But as quickly as possible, they're going to be on site. We're looking at that first part of November at the earliest, though, before they'll be here. So with my point being, we don't have some of the information that we want to have in this guide. We don't quite have yet. So we've been kind of anxious to get this out at the same time. It's like, let's not send out if it's not complete. But I think we're going to get as good as we can get. I think we can get to the contact information once the contract is signed on the 26th. And then we can start handing this out to the business owners. So our intent is to, as it says, distribute this. It's got some nice information in there. It talks about tips to survival. There's actual, some nice little notes there on things you can do, things like, letting your customers know ahead of time, talk about alternative routes to get to you with your customers, start up a Facebook page with your customer base, just little things you can do, especially during construction, to help, have sales, do any type of promotion things. When, one of the things in here that I hadn't really thought about was, when the construction's will be directly in front of you, let your customers know ahead of time. That's the week you're shutting down, because you're going to do all your interior remodeling that week, right? You're having a 2-day or 3-day or 4-day shutdown for remodeling inside as well as outside. And then when the construction moves on, you've got new paint and new carpet and whatever you've got in the business. So little tips like that, right? Just things to consider and think about as you go through. And then creative promotional ideas. And beautiful picture of Mary's Peak. Thanks for your patience during construction, which we'll be saying a lot over the next 2 years, right? So the intent was, again, this will get posted on the website. And by website, I mean the project page, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the hope was to, again, put one of these in the hands of every property owner, business, or resident on Main Street and Applegate Street. Chelsea's not gonna be able to do it by herself. Chelsea and I can't do that. So we'd probably look for some volunteers to do that. Maybe we can reach out to the chamber. Maybe we can, just put the word out there, have a day or a couple of dates and just try to get these out to everybody. You don't need to have it memorized, I don't think, to be effective. To be effective at handing these out, we really just need to put it in the hands and say there's a website. There's some other stuff you can go to.
Chris, if I can make a suggestion, I'm sure that our guests have a number of questions, and that I'm wondering if you know how many businesses will be impacted, what that count is.
I don't have a good number. That Chelsea probably does. I don't. I think Chelsea's around it because she's looking at newsletter or like news mailings and stuff already.
Okay.
I don't have a good number.
Okay. I would also like to suggest that for myself as a member, is that not perchance? As a member of the council in this committee, I would value the opportunity to volunteer and, to maybe serve as a council buddy for 2 or 3 businesses that I could work with one-on-one. And I know on our ad hoc public arts committee, our Streetscapes public arts committee, I know there are at least 2 business owners on that committee. And there are probably other members on that committee who would be willing to serve the same role.
Great. You're talking more of like a one-on-one type relationship where you take responsibility, you take that liaison kind of position with the businesses in town?
Yeah, why not? Make sure they get the information that they need, that we're answering any questions they have. If there's anything specific we can do, maybe we can highlight certain businesses in the newsletter, for example, before they're impacted. And, everybody's going to wonder, well, if they're open and I can't park up front, where am I going to park?
Yeah. Is there? Good.
Just kind of piggyback on that. What about businesses, not businesses such as the library, post office? And I would be happy to interface with the library since I have connections there.
Is there maybe specific to the guide, the survival guide? Is there specific information that, again, I kind of glossed over it and I don't have hard copies for you, but is there specific information here that you would be looking for as either chamber or business owner? What's missing in here, or what would it be helpful to have in here? I talked about the contact information, kind of a brief summary of the project itself, how it's funded. I don't know that we'll have a timeline in here just because of the time, but we might. I mean, we can do kind of start date, and it's a 20-month project or anticipated to go 20 months. So we can, what we do have from the engineers that put the plan together is it's not required, but it's a recommended traffic kind of schedule. And it does lay out more like, not like October 1st, but it's like week 1, you're going to be here, week 2, you're going to be here, week 3, you'll hear. And so it does kind of map that out a little bit. That's something I don't necessarily want to share now because the contractor does have some discretion to swap things around and do things in a way that makes more sense financially for them than maybe it made sense to the engineer who put it together. So we're trying to be very careful to not make commitments that we can't keep or make promises that are out of our control, or to give impressions of things like it's 20 months and we're going to hit 20 months and everybody's going to say, you said 20 months and they still got it. So we're trying to be very careful early on that we're not promising things that we don't have control of, like the schedule, right? So, yeah.
So with that, do we have any idea of, will this be a 24-hour day operation? Will it just be between certain hours and in the daylight? Could it be done at night? And how will roads be shut down or not shut down?
Great question.
I think that's all relevant.
There are allowances for night work. There's allowances for weekend work. We just won't know really until the contractor says this is what we're requesting. But there are allowances for a variety of times, dates. I can say that, typically, and I anticipate this with no difference, no earlier than 7 a.m. And at end of work, everything's got to be covered, safety cone. I mean, it's got to be safe for people to be around without a worker standing right there to protect people, right? So they'll be using the big steel plates to cover up open trenches. It will be safe at end of business. And obviously while they're there, they will be required to have the flaggers and, people out there and signage and all that stuff. So we can include some of that information, but maybe it'd be helpful just to let people know that there will be allowances for weekend work, evening work. They're going to look to have minimal impact. They don't want to be out there in the busiest peak of summer traffic on a Friday evening either, right? So what we typically see in these projects is like noon on Friday, they're done, or they're not out there on Friday, right? During the summer months, they're going to try to avoid that. So let me look at that a little bit closer.
Chris, when you say allowances, does that mean that they may not intend to work at night, but they're allowed to if they need to?
Right.
Is that what that means?
Yeah, it's built into the schedule on what's going to work best for the contractor. Yeah.
And of course, I should know this, remember, but it's going to involve Main Street and Applegate Street. But what are the end streets it goes to?
So it'd be 7th, and then all the way down. We say 14th Street, but there'll be a little bit of transition beyond 14th, between 14th and 15th. But before you get to 15th Street, it'll have ended.
And will it include all of the side streets?
No, it's only going to include 13th Street.
Okay.
13th Street will be redone, restriped. Those intersections and the lighting all get replaced. But none of the other, so 12th, 11th, 10th, none of the others are going to get paved. As we get into the project, we may have some discussions with the city council. Haven't talked about yet, kind of these little add-on projects. So we may look at, how much more would it be to like restripe 12th Street? If we just did nothing else, or maybe we could do an asphalt, layer over top, just new asphalt and new striping on 12th Street. How much more would that cost? Can we sneak that into the budget while they're here? That's the cheapest time to do it. Doesn't make sense to do that project. So there may be some little add-on projects that are going to outside of the scope of what ODOT's doing that would be specific to city projects, but hey, we got a contractor in town. Let's have them knock that out. So, but as far as this ODOT project, Main Street, Applegate Street, 7th to 14th and 13th Street between Applegate and Main. That's it.
So Chris, it sounds like there won't be a lot of decisions made until they award the contract to someone. And then ODOT drives the timing or they negotiate in the contract.
Yeah,
So a lot of the questions that we probably have won't.
There'll be a pre-construction meeting, and in that pre-construction meeting, which is going to be ODOT and city's engineers and ODOT engineers, and then the contractor, there'll be a lot of that's going to get ironed out. So it's not that those decisions aren't going to be known forever. It's just we're not going to know them prior to this going out, but we will know them prior to them starting, right? Hey, gentlemen, come on in.
And is that meeting open to the public or no?
It is my bodyguard.
Can be. It's there's going to be a lot of people at the table. So, and I don't know if we're going to hold it here. We're going to hold it ODOT. I'm not even sure where that is yet. It's not been scheduled. So if we had it here, there'd obviously be room here, but it's going to be a full meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds like from what you said that construction will proceed like perhaps one block at a time rather than the entire length of it.
The way the engineers have it designed is, it'll be one lane at a time. So like just take Main Street, for example. They're not going to close both lanes of Main Street and like reroute traffic to Applegate both directions, right? So what they'll do is like the north lane of Applegate Street or the north lane of Main Street will be closed for a block, maybe 2 blocks, maybe 3 blocks, right? And that will all be closed and all the traffic will funnel from the 2 lanes down to the south lane all the way through until it spans back out. And then when they're done with that, then they would open that lane up and they'll close the south lane and they'll do that work for that 1 or 2 or 3 blocks. And then once that's done, then they'll move east. And then they'll do either that next block or block 2. So it'll be a lane at a time, a lane closure at a time. But depending on where they're at, it's either 1, 2, or 3 blocks. But I think the largest I saw, it's just me, the largest I saw was a 3-block stretch. And they try to avoid that. But again, there's a lot of reasons for that and a lot of variables. But no more than 3 blocks is what I saw in that design plan to get done at any time.
Okay. Now, if they're working their way down Main Street and they're on my side of the street, can my business still be open and functioning, or would it be dangerous to?
There's some requirements there that they can't shut a business down, right? So they've got to be able to be open. They're supposed to, as part of their plan, they need to find a way for pedestrians to be able to get into that business. Parking is no guarantee, right? We're not going to have parking in front of businesses when the road's getting torn up, but pedestrians will be able to get to your business at any given time. The exception to that will have to be discussed with the owner of the business, right? There may be, again, I'm looking out down over the next 2 years. I imagine at some point something's going to come up where a business owner may be approached and say, you know what, we really need to shut you down for 2 hours while we're doing this on this date on this time. And there will be some discussion about what that's going to look like. And again, hopefully business owners will appreciate that and vice versa. But that's not going to be an ongoing given that they can just shut down a block and say all the businesses have to be closed for days or weeks. That will not happen. So.
Will you be working with neighboring businesses or entities to maybe negotiate additional parking?
I think those are good discussions for our businesses to have. It's something that the city can host, but the city's not going to be forcing that on anybody. I think we'll welcome and invite those discussions to take place and that cooperation to take place. But we can't say Citizens Bank, your parking lot's got to be open to everybody on the north side of the road during business hours because they don't have parking. There's never going to be a push. It'll be more of a cooperative effort.
Okay.
So we'll host those, we'll help those discussions and help facilitate them, but we're not going to force
Russ
that
won't be
on.
in Paul's truck.
Oh, okay. I'll warn him.
Honestly, on a selfish note, one of the things I've been concerned about, we talked to the guys from ODOT a year ago, is our drive-up window.
Yeah.
You know, the access to our drive-up. You know, they suggested maybe we can make a makeshift drive up through the Willamette Hose parking.
Loop around.
But they did promise us that they would not close it. And
Yeah.
We do need our customers. There are some that just can't get out of their car.
Yeah, the drive ups and the drive throughs. Again, at some point they got to pave that, right? And so there may be a point of time, but a lot of what we're talking about the communication plan is if you know ahead of time, you can make some arrangements, and it doesn't guarantee that every customer that wanted to get to you is going to be able to find you. They might go, it's construction. I'm not even going through Philomath today, right?
Mhm.
So that's still going to happen, right? We don't want to minimize that everything's going to be hunky dory. It's going to be 2 years of construction.
Mhm.
We want to get a communication plan out that allows you as the property owner and as a business owner to know what to anticipate so that you can make adjustments.
Yeah, being proactive with a lot of, we can talk to a lot of those people that we know aren't capable of getting out of their car or really need
Right.
to use a drive.
And if they know ahead of time and you've got signage 2 weeks ahead of time, hey, these 3 days, we're not going to have our drive-through, please make arrangements. Or we're going to have our drive-through, but you'll have to access a block further and come back around. So again, if you know that 2 weeks ahead of time, yeah, it's not perfect, but it's better than waking up and coming to work the next day and seeing that your drive-through is closed, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
that's what we're going to try to avoid.
There might
is
be a
that.
regulation that maybe it has to be 30 days for us to notify.
There may be, yeah, and that's gonna, I don't know, I don't get into the weeds of the
Right.
transportation mitigation, but that may be very true. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Change belt and roller skates for you.
All right. I'll volunteer you to help.
So for survival guide, I've got, look at some type of a schedule, even if it's not specific dates, but give some type of an outline of what the schedule is going to look like, time frame. And then look at some discussion in that same vein about days, dates, nights, nights and days, weekends, that kind of thing. That's the word I was going to put, and I forgot to weekends for my note. So something there. Anything else that needs to be in that survival guide that you won't think about until we hand it to you and you're like, oh, I wish.
We can
You know.
probably create a survival guide for the next town.
Yeah, well, and this is based off of one that Florence did. So again, we're not reinventing the wheel entirely. We're perfecting the wheel. But Florence had one. It was actually about 3 times as thick as this, which I thought was overkill, and people probably wouldn't read it if we got too much information in there. All right, let me turn off my notifications.
They take any city events in consideration, obviously the frolics and parades are a big deal.
Yes,
I mean,
they've already been notified of those. Those went into the RFP, any of those big events. Yeah.
Well, and our sipping straw will be-
Yeah.
could be affected.
Yeah.
We have to read it.
Yeah, and I know when.
Yeah, trunk or treat, that's
Yeah, I
another
know when
one.
we did the water, and again, I don't want to overcommit anything. I know when we did the water and the sewer projects through here, that contractor did not want to be in the area during those events, and they were very good. I would say they did a very good job of buttoning things up and having things nice and having signs there so that the events could take place with minimal interference as possible. And again, I can only imagine that that's going to be in their best interest as well. I mean, these are going to be our neighbors for the next couple of years, so they're not going to be coming in ticking people off right out of the chutes. They're going to be as accommodated as they can as well to try to get their work done, get out of people's way, and move on down the road because they've got 20+ months ahead of them. So
Yeah, trunk or treat is right around the corner,
Mhm.
so I would assume that's not going to be affected this year. If we're doing it on Halloween,
I will make sure it's on the top of my radar. Yeah,
because we had so many people last year.
and it's on the 31st. this
Yeah, we're
year.
gonna do it on Monday.
Since you have your radar out, we have a big event on October 5th.
And that should probably be early enough because
Yeah, and I
if
don't,
they don't sign, or no, the contract just. said it's
What's
the end.
the October 5th?
it's our 65th anniversary.
Oh, that's right. And it's on site, right? At the,
Hoping to pack the building.
okay. If you think of anything else after we leave the meeting, let me know. Again, it sounds like we're gonna get this out probably no sooner than the 26th, because I think we want to have the contact information for staff. We're hoping this sticks around on people's counters and stuff for a while, where they can access it. I mentioned contact information. We'll have all that there very clear. We've got, Chelsea's the contact at the city. You'll have the contractor contact. You'll have, we'll throw the police non-emergency number on there if somebody's seen something. So we'll be able to go through if people get a hold of people if they need to. So we'll put Chamber of Commerce on there as well. Put Lisa's phone number at the top. First call here.
We'll put it, a call forward to the city.
Good, Kevin.
Want to welcome Pioneer and the shop. You guys want to introduce yourself just so everybody knows who you are?
Engineering Pioneer.
Glenn Freeman, Engineering Pioneer.
Joe Noble, owner of the shop.
Yeah, appreciate you being here, Joe. Thank you, gentlemen. So good to have you. We're just going through some of the ideas that the city staff has come up with as far as public engagement and outreach about the project, and just getting some feedback from everybody on what we're missing and what else we could add. All right, so we'll have this going out. The next bullet point is providing open during construction signs. City's going to spend some money on these. We're thinking of trying to brand them a little bit so they look consistently. So as you're looking from store to store to store, you're going to recognize, oh, this is a, downtown Philomath open during construction kind of deal. So those will be free. We'll give those out. We'll get a little bit nicer quality so they last for at least a couple of years. And again, we'll just hand those out to folks, highlighting that, yeah, we recognize they're in construction, but we're open. We're thinking my initial thought on this was kind of 8 by 11. Nothing's gonna be so big, people can't put it in their window, but big enough that you can see it as you're either driving or walking by, that it'll be prominent. So it'll be something bright. Have some colors on it, maybe a cone or something, but something to kind of get it.
What
attention.
about the tent kind of
The tent kind of one?
Yeah.
That you'd put, like where would
in
you
front
put
of
it?
your business?
Oh, like a larger A-frame one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my concern on that is we're now creating an obstacle for the construction stuff that's out there, but if it's just sidewalk, I don't know, what do you guys think on A-frames in front of buildings?
That is expensive. Those are-
Might not even be seen in the construction. I probably would be so nervous going through the construction, I wouldn't be looking for signs.
Are they replacing curbing and sidewalks during this construction or just focusing on the surface of the road?
It'll be everything. Yeah, it'll be sidewalks, curb gutter,
So then
and
that
asphalt.
would preclude you putting any of those A-frames on the sidewalk while they're doing construction.
Yeah, while they're there, I mean, the hope is to kind of create the signage throughout the entire quarter, so 7th to 14th throughout the duration. But yeah, I mean, where you're gonna see those temporary, not necessarily closures, but where the sidewalk is torn up, hopefully that's gonna be limited for that, couple of weeks while they're right in front of you, and then move down. So during that 2 weeks, we wouldn't want to have A-frames, but throughout the rest of it, we could have some stuff. So maybe we do some more, rather than A-frame in front of our business, maybe we just do some more general, Philomath downtown businesses are open, kind of more general signs as people are coming into town, just to let us know, kind of you see the, pardon our construction or pardon our mess, we're still open for business, kind of generic stuff. So that's a good idea. Is that on here as a bullet point yet? We'll add that. We'll just put more of a downtown Philomath.
I don't know how often they utilize the pegs that they put the senior pictures on, but you might be able to use that in the times that they don't have senior photos on them.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I like that idea.
For public works flags. Is that where you hang your public works?
Stormwater.
Yeah, the storm, yeah.
I like that idea. Thank you.
Or the flag,
Poles.
well, I mean, like when we've had the chamber, the Simmons Row, we put our chamber, things in those holes, so
Oh, yeah. That's
it
good.
could be something like that, that we use that hole there for the winter flag, so.
Assuming the
Just
hole
like-
is still there.
Exactly, well, it'll be in between. I think it's gonna be, we can't close the businesses, so I think people know the businesses are most likely gonna be open.
So there were some poles marking, have you guys seen the poles outside of the bank? The markings, is that you guys? That's not your project. So,
Those are the new power poles.
oh, okay,
They're replacing power poles.
okay.
There's like 10 of them on Main Street.
I was a little worried when I saw those. I thought, I looked kind of down the line and I thought, you guys gonna lose part of your building.
So that's the other thing that you bring up. Are they gonna be putting those flag holes back in? So the,
Mhm. No, we're gonna move to put all those because we're adding new street lights in, new like pedestrian size
Yeah.
street lines. So the intent is to move the flags. We've been talking to Rotary, and the intent is to move the flags out of some concrete and put them on those poles, on the light poles. So we'll have brackets built into the poles
Oh.
where they can just drop
okay,
in there.
okay.
And they'll be low enough and hit from the ground. Don't want to down the truck.
Low enough that you can still put them in there, but high enough that they can reach up. Is going to be just right.
Depending on whose shoulders you're.
That I've seen them, some city I went through recently, I saw, it's obvious, there's a little peg out that comes out of the light pole. That's where the flags go.
Yeah.
Rotary's expressed. Yeah, they're looking at even all new flags, we're not restrained to what they're currently doing because they're looking at maybe purchasing, they've got some money, they're looking at maybe doing all new flags and everything else to make it work. So whatever we come up with.
Because I know that they're putting them at every single business,
Right.
that, sponsors it, or I'm not sure the exact
think
thing.
it's
I
where
know
they
like
can
we
get 'em.
sponsor it.
Right.
And sometimes those holes are hard to find.
Yes, they are.
And so they send you out with all the flags and you hope you can find a place to put them. So that'll be
So the
really
recipe,
nice.
we're doing that for the sip and straw.
Yeah.
And when I talked to Rotary, not to believe, when I talked to Rotary, they really like the idea because those light poles are going to be pretty consistent all the way down, right? From 14th all the way to 7th. So the thought was if you had a flag on every one of those going down, it's actually gonna be more impactful as you're driving down because you'll
More
see
uniform.
all those sides, both sides of the road more uniform. It'll make them pop a little bit more. So
Even
Yes,
on
they'll be-
Applegate, though, are they doing that as well? Because we got a pretty dark area down there.
we have fewer
At the other end.
street lights, especially as you go further west, there's fewer street lights there. We've not held, but I would say on all the street lights, let's do it, but it's not necessarily my money to spend. So it'll depend on what Rotary is able and wants to do, but my intent would be wherever we've got those street lights or the street lights, we have them consistent. Yeah. And generally, not to get into too much, but there's other efforts apart. I mean, generally, we're looking at kind of expanding what people typically think of as downtown Philomath, right? Which is like 12th to 14th, or you can have that couple blocks where everybody's out on the their frontage. And just because we're growing and we're expanding and we've got more area, we're looking to kind of bump that out a little to, to get over to Applegate Street and try to tie this all in. So you include the library there and, police and city. You get further east a little bit more, maybe come west just a little bit further. So that definition of, where is downtown Philomath is going to kind of get expanded with this project as well. So when you're adding the pedestrian lighting, the banners, the benches, the art fixtures and things like that. Again, it's not just gonna be 2 blocks of downtown Philomath anymore on Main Street, right? That downtown area is gonna be larger. As it should be over time. We'll get more businesses in and more people in town, and that downtown will grow. Next point, create an online business toolkit, graphics and sample social media posts for businesses to use during the project. This one's Chelsea's specialty. So again, the idea is get within the project website to have a link or a page there for business owners where they can go that'll have, a printable open during construction sign, other things in her toolkit that she's got in her brain that I'm not sure what she's referring to, but she talks about social media posts, right? So when 3 weeks out, we're going to be under construction, 2 weeks out, we're under construction, a week out, hey, in 3 days, don't forget. So we'll kind of put some templates and create some things out there where it's easier for a business owner to, pull those in, schedule them, hit done, and within an hour, you've got 6 posts letting your businesses know between now and 2 weeks from now, here's how you're going to be affected and have to change your parking and everything's going to be. So again, doesn't really cost us anything to put that out there. And if it helps a small business owner to have that information available to them, we'll put that on the website as well. Any thoughts there of what might be helpful for folks as far as easy access for them to be able to get hold of? Other just social media post stuff.
We can use the chamber newsletter too.
Okay.
And I guess making sure they're shareable.
Yeah.
You do post them. Yeah, your newsletter gets it out.
Yeah.
pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's good.
Keeping information on the city's project webpage up to date. She's already got that page open. You can check it out after the meeting. Again, we'll keep adding stuff in, pertinent information there. Again, knowing this is 20 months or so, one of the things I've challenged Chelsea with early on is to make sure that information stays fresh, but then also that stuff that's not fresh anymore gets pulled off of there, right? So we don't just have, even 10 months into this project, there's just gonna be a lot of information there. So we want to pull off the old stuff that's not relevant anymore, like, oh, here's our groundbreaking date. Now that stuff can come off at some point, and let's just keep the relevant stuff there. So it does feel like a useful web page and not just something that's dated fairly quickly. sharing information with the Paloma Chamber of Commerce, send out in the email distribution list. There's the sign up there if people want to get on that. So again, we'll be sharing information with the chamber. And then Lisa, obviously anything that the chamber wants to forward on, you can forward on. If stuff seems less relevant, then you don't need to. And we don't want to take over or dominate the newsletter or the email distribution or hijack it, right? So it's like, we'll provide it to you. You want to forward it on, great. Feel like it's less relevant, that's fine. The thing we really want to push is, do I get here? Maybe this next one, updates to the city newsletter and social media posts. I don't really see it on here. Maybe we'll get to it. We're going to have I guess on the email distribution, the city is going to push for people to sign up for that, for city notification. So every week we're going to get notice from the contractor. That'll be part of our contract with them, is they have to give us notice again, where we were, where we are, where we're going to be. And so we'll get those weekly, and we're going to get those in a format that it's easier for us to turn those around. We'll post them into the website, we'll email them out. So what we really want to push with our property owners and anybody interested is to contact the city and get onto that email distribution list, right? So you kind of opt in, and then you'll get those updates. And if you want to unsubscribe, then you unsubscribe, but otherwise you'll just be getting those emails as they go out. So, you know, it's really less about, we got to get in the chamber newsletter, we got the Lions Club newsletter, we got to get to Rotary's newsletter, we got to get all these. It's really about, here's the email address. If you're interested in getting updates from the city on this project, then you need to contact, sign up for the emails, and then we'll just push it out directly. And that's going to free up all of your newsletters and all of your email distributions. It's just, we really want people to opt in directly. The bigger stuff is still going to be seen by chamber members, right? The bigger stuff we still want to happen, but those weekly updates and things, we want people to kind of opt in themselves and just have a bigger list going for that and go directly as much as possible. So we're not having to manage, you know, we don't, Lisa have to manage all that more volume of information either. She just needs to let people know there's a place you can sign up to get information, and you can go there to
I
get it.
think that makes it more accurate when it's coming through.
Can I throw, so this is the same distribution type system that we use for the weekly email that the city already sends out about meetings and such. And it has been updated that if you go in to sign up, now there is a checkbox for Downtown Streetscapes project news. So if you, so it is the same sign up on the city's website for the weekly email. You can go in there and update what you want, or you can just drop me an email and I can manually add people into that distribution list.
Yeah.
Or Chelsea.
Is Brad going to do anything?
Brad Fuqua? Yeah, so we'll have, you know, ODOT will be doing its own press releases, kind of larger scale. The city will be doing press releases occasionally when there's kind of more monumental type things. We'll be doing press releases. But most of the communication is going to be those weekly updates, and that's really going to be a lot of it. You know, if there's a large delay, you know, we hit a dinosaur bone, I mean, that kind of stuff, that's going to be newsworthy, right? And Gary's or Brad will be out there with his camera getting photos and stuff. But you think I'm joking? There are dinosaurs in this town. I'm telling you, you're gonna find them. So yeah, I mean, I don't know that. Yeah, I mean, Brad's going to write what Brad's going to write about. I anticipate we've got a groundbreaking ceremony. He's going to be there for that, I'm assuming. You know, it'll be pretty exciting the first little bit, and then eventually it's just going to kind of wear on and wear on and wear on.
I'm using my, and Ruth will probably remember this, my experience when the couplet was adopted. And that took years of planning. And then when the construction was out and about, people would come in honestly to the bank and say, what's going on out there?
Right. That will happen.
Yeah.
That will happen. Yeah.
You will know.
Mayor Jones is speaking tomorrow at the Chamber of Commerce luncheon. Everybody's invited to come to that. I think the Chamber's done nice job publicizing, and sounds like there's several new businesses that are coming to the luncheon that haven't been before, hopefully, to learn more about the Streetscape project. So it's kind of a state of the city / streetscape update, about half and half. So invite you to come to that. That'll be kind of part of our, again, outreach, just getting out there information. And it's going to be heavy. I mean, we've got a whole slide dedicated to here's the email, here's the sign up. I'm going to take a screenshot of the one that Ruth just talked about. So when you get there, it's very familiar and you can go and get signed up for those weekly emails.
Lisa, do we need to RSVP for that? Or can we just go?
Well, we would like you to because we have lunch included, but if you still want to come, just come
Where do you RSVP?
to me.
I'd like to come, please.
If you don't RSVP, you don't get to eat first. You gotta wait. And if there's leftovers or
Depending on
enough.
who's catering.
Sometimes
And this meeting starts at 11:45
Well,
or noon, right? That's what I
we're
read.
saying, we're not gonna start the actual presentation until a little bit after
Okay.
noon, but we're starting a little bit early so that people can get in, get their lunch and visit for a little bit. We're gonna do that on all luncheons now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Could you make a note that I get his? lunch?
Yes, of course.
Updates in the city. I guess with that, on speaking arrangements, if any of your organizations or anybody you're with, if you'd like the mayor or myself or Kevin to come and talk at one of your organization events, a luncheon, anything like that, Kevin would love to go. You can drag me along with him. We'd be more than happy to come and talk to your business about the project, right? So that's not off the table by any means. If you want us to come, we'll sit down with everybody at the bank and kind of talk through what we know. Might be better later, you know, as we know more than what we know today, obviously, but more than happy to do that at any time. So besides just come to the chamber, if you want us to come talk to you, we'll come talk to you. So city staff is available to do that. We can probably pull in an engineer if we need to from the city's engineer, Murray Smith, whatever we need to do. So want to make sure everybody's informed. Updates to the city's newsletter. So Ruth and Chelsea and myself put that out again. I envision that it's going to have maybe not the weekly view, but kind of a monthly view. Here's what Brett done last month. Here's where they're anticipating to get to by the end of this month. Here's the businesses that are going to be affected. Here's some, you know, special parking areas that have been dedicated by the property owners for parking. Here's some different routes to get to the drive-through at the bank or whatever it might be. So any of that type of information, we're, you know, typically with the newsletter, we try to not, you know, we don't advertise businesses. We're even very careful about what nonprofits we advertise for, because otherwise it would just be all announcements, right? We try to keep it very much centric to city news that needs to get out. That may not otherwise be necessarily newsworthy for like the paper. But during construction, that's going to be kind of its own little box, right? And so if your business is being affected, you want to get word out to customers, you're having a special sale, any of that kind of stuff, we're going to have a little dedicated spot in the newsletter that's going to be dedicated to the Downtown Safety and Streetscape project. And we'll even call it Surviving Construction or something like that. We'll come up with something catchy, right? And so we'll do that going through. We'll have some early ones, you know, depending on where we start. I think we're starting on the west end, working east on Main, is I believe how it was laid out. Not a lot of big business impacts here, which I think is good. That'll kind of warm people up to the fact we've got construction before we're just like plopping right on 13th and Main, right? So kind of work our way there. And I believe the schedule was, as long as I've kind of been saying this, and again, I'm not committing, the early schedule was to do Main Street first and then come and do Applegate second. The contractor could flip that on its head, run it by ODOT, and they give it a thumbs up. So, but right now, that was the way that our engineers prepared it, was to do Main Street first, and then come back and do Applegate Street after that. Yep.
Yeah, so yeah, just trying, so when you said to starting from the west going east, so are we sure that the water treatment plant construction, all of that on 9th Street and the streetscapes won't kind of come together and create a problem? Because we got Hughes excavation down 9th Street, of course, PCS.
No, I have no idea. I have no idea.
Well, now you do.
Yeah, well, we'll know more as we, yeah, I mean, that project.
Well, you know, obviously.
The timing
we'll
of
have
that
another
project
look at it.
Yeah, when we're looking at the construction there, I mean, that's when we'll look at those schedules a little bit more. So no, it's something to be aware, but
Yeah.
again, if they have to narrow to one lane, the traffic that project's gonna generate is gonna be nothing compared to just the continued
Oh,
traffic
right.
we have going to the coast, right? And that's gonna be the big concern, is getting all the big trucks and stuff down to one lane and through town on Main Street, I think is gonna be the biggest kind of challenge.
Yeah,
traffic wise.
yeah. To block the intersection.
Yeah.
And when does the water treatment plant start?
The reservoir, I believe they're prepping the RFP. I'm hoping it goes out in the next week or two for the RFP for the reservoir, and then the treatment plant will come in on the heels of that. The push is to get the reservoir RFP out because they want to get again in the ground and get building before it gets too wet. And so that's really the focus. So the reservoir is the actual holding tank. The treatment plant will be across 9th Street, basically right next to the existing treatment plant where Flume Community Services is located. That's a much quicker build. It'll go up a lot quicker. So really, if we don't get that one out till later, that'll be okay, as long as we get that one out so it can get constructed next summer.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So city newsletter we talked about, social media posts on the city's Facebook page. I want to dial this in a little bit more and talk about like how consistently that's going to happen, and not to overcommit, but more just to have it be more front of mind for us so we can schedule it on our end. But minimum weekly, we'll have updates there. Somebody said something earlier about highlighting businesses the week prior to. Was that from you, Councilor Causey, or was that from Councilor Lowe?
I don't
Me?
know.
Look at you, Chris.
That may be something, again, on our social media accounts, we're typically pretty careful about that. Although maybe the chamber could do that, but maybe staff can kind of work with you on that a little bit. Or maybe that is just a chamber thing, that if your business is going to be impacted by the streetscapes that week or 2 weeks out, maybe you forward something on to Lisa that she can just pop onto the Facebook page and the city can share it or like it or whatever like that. I don't want to put too much on us generating all the content, but like if your business wanted to put something on the city's Facebook page, again, we're usually pretty careful about not
What
making
I'd
it
like to
public,
do
private,
is have
public,
the
private, but
business, if they know, they put it on their Facebook page and then we just share it. But then we're not creating the content.
right, right.
And that's might be, if they know when the date is gonna be.
So maybe it's, the city of Philomath Facebook doesn't follow all the businesses though, so we wouldn't know, but I guess we could put out there, say, through the business, maybe through the chamber, if you post something related to Streetscapes, if you forward it to the city and let us know, email or whatever, then we'll like it or link to it or share it or whatever we need to do. So I'm more comfortable with that. We'll probably throw some little disclaimer on there that we're not, not endorsing the business per se, but we're just notifying the public of, access to and from the businesses kind of thing. So we probably come up with some minimal disclaimer to try to cover the city a little bit, that we're not endorsing specific businesses, because we don't want the business down the road going, hey, how come you putting them on Facebook, or we want to be on Facebook too. It's like, well, we're not endorsing the business, we're just talking about the impact there. So we could probably work that out though. So we're talking about Facebook post shared by city. I guess, Lisa, whether those came from the business directly, or you gave me a heads up, or Chelsea heads up, we are friends with the chamber Facebook page. So anything that you put on yours, we're going to see, and we could just as easily share that or like that one, right?
So you can't just say on your post this week, we're going to be between these streets, businesses that may be affected, and tag those businesses.
I think we could.
I mean, because you're just saying businesses that may be affected, and then you're not relying on somebody else, and then that business can share it. And once you tag a business, then it's going to show up on our Facebook page, and we get notified. And then we can take that information and share it, because if it's coming directly from the city, it's going to have more of an impact than it is from a chamber.
That's what I think too. And your information is probably the most up to date.
And then we can refer them to, for updated information, go to this website.
Because you're right, we have had the same thing happen. It's like, well, you shared that person's information and more than me or mine, so.
That's really good. Thank you.
I hate to go backwards, but I was thinking about something for the survival guide. I don't know how many of you will have landscape affected, but trying to be proactive with the guy that, I mean, we've got dirt system out there that's gonna get chopped up. What's that? Your hydrangeas. Oh, yeah, I think I'll leave those alone. Just for any businesses that might have landscape that is, we're gonna try to move some trees and keep some of our.
I want them to rip out our stuff.
Rip it out,
Rip it
redo it.
out. I don't care.
You just mentioned land or irrigation, but also like your contracted services, like, hey, we don't need to come mow we don't need you to come do the trimming this week because we don't have any bushes left. But yeah, we'd hate for you to get a bill because they showed up, there's nothing to do and they still end up charging you, so. That's a great tip for the survival guide. Thank you.
He gets to do all of that. Marty actually takes care of all of our branches, so he was kind enough to come and sit and listen to this because I'm probably going to refer all of you to him, even though he might be up at McMinnville.
The next bullet point here, just going through, and again, I don't mind working in a circular fashion, so if we need to go back, that's fine. Sharing information at public meetings and events. The city council meetings, I typically give a staff update if it's not 11 o'clock at night. And so, we'll be doing that. Obviously, updates to state of the city addresses, typically get invited to Lions Club once or twice a year and Rotary once or twice a year. And so we'll be able to give updates as we go, just like we do with any other kind of city project. So just noted that on here. Occasional direct mailings for important updates. City will utilize property owner information for surrounding property owners. Renters will be encouraged to sign up for the city newsletter. But went back and forth. I mean, there's several residents on Main and Applegate, and so and a lot of them are rentals, right? And so we have property owner information. We don't necessarily have tenant information, and that's a concern we've got is how do you get a hold of the tenants that are living there? It's not going to be a mailing. It's going to have to be door to door, or door hanger or something.
And I will tell you, the mailing is hard. Learning from experience of our fiber project, when you don't have, if they don't accept mail at their location and they have a PO box, you'll get a lot of returned mail.
I think the mailings we were thinking, at least the mailings I was thinking of would be like a postcard, something a little bit less expensive, more like a postcard.
Right.
It would be branded and tell them like, go to the website for more information, but you may be impacted by construction in front of your business or home or something like that.
Could you get the Boy Scouts to like go hand out flyers or something going to the businesses?
There's not that many. I mean, you could have a group or an organization.
The volunteers.
Yeah, just canvas the streets.
Yeah, I think some of this
We
is.
should have done it during the sip and stroll. Everyone was walking the
By the time
streets.
You ended up with 5 or 6 on each door. Come on.
Trick or treat, that's what we'll do with the trick or treat.
Every participant can have a stack full of flyers.
It's not a bad idea.
Do you like anticipate anyone losing power for a while or internet?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, some of the utilities are getting moved and, but again, it's so built in, where I was gonna go with this is some of these things are gonna be on the contractor to provide notice of some of this stuff, and that's built into some of this as well as they have some onerous as well. Where we're trying to get to really is being proactive with the business community, right? Like you getting notice 2 days before that your power is gonna be shut off is really tough for you to relay it to customers in 48 hours, right? So we're trying to be extra proactive with the business owners. ODOT and the contractor, they're gonna do their kind of minimum notifications on, hey, we're gonna be here tomorrow, we're gonna turn off your power. We just wanted you to know that more in advance than that, right? So that's real, we're just really trying to go up and out of the way or up and over what's required to really make it easier for the business owners to be able to make plans and adjust accordingly. But there are minimum requirements that the contractor will have to do for notifications for power shut off, lack of access, et cetera, et cetera. They're gonna do that minimum. We just want to do better than that. So occasional direct mailings, that's good input on the mailings. Yeah, I hate to spend the money on those and have them come back undelivered. Do you have an idea of return rate? What you think you were at?
No.
Yeah, most of them with businesses, especially have PO boxes. I see them every day when I go get mine.
Yeah.
See it in the dumpster.
Well, you know,
All your flyers.
most of the businesses in town don't get mail directly to them. They all go to
Right.
PO boxes. So unless you have those, they're gonna come back to you.
So maybe we'll rethink this occasional direct mailings and swap that out for,
I think email and social media are pretty effective. Yeah.
Is there a special election or anything you can just put stuff them into?
I always think that email and social media is very effective until I
Talk to
do something for the frolic that we only advertise on email. People are like, I didn't know anything about it. I'm like, how'd you not hear anything about it? But it's like, I never saw a poster. It's like,
I still have lots of
That's true.
customers tell me they don't have email, so.
yeah.
Most effective would be a massive billboard at the beginning of each end of town.
Welcome to our.
Save money on the mailers.
It
Yeah,
would
I'm
be hard to
smiling, but
update.
I am smiling, but I'm gonna
Billboard.
double down on this large signs kind of, we need to think that through a little bit. Yeah,
I think using the reader board as much as possible on certain things too.
yeah, I mean, the radio board stays really full just
know
with
it
our
does.
other stuff, but you know, maybe
If it's
something next to
major
it
or
or yeah,
something.
maybe something. Definitely if we're doing, the one thing that's not on here that we talked about a little bit.
One of the limitations with the reader board is that the message is so short.
It is, and it's gotta be quick.
And boy, I
And
hate,
that's a
I
bad
hate the
corner.
abbreviations we sometimes have.
And it's not scary.
Yeah.
You only get those 4 lines.
Yes.
And nobody drives the speed limit on that corner, let's be honest.
No.
Maybe you should have a standing one that says, be patient.
And then
Slow
there's
down,
nothing
be
wrong with
patient.
it. We do save the dates when we have gaps, and
Yeah.
so certainly, businesses open. I hate using the word Philomas because it's a long word and it only
Yes.
takes up an entire line, but businesses open in town.
Yeah, perfect.
Shop local. Those are, and we did some of those during COVID,
Yeah. those are
reminding
great.
people to shop local. So certainly we'll be happy to get those scheduled whenever we have gaps.
We'll add that as a bullet point. I think that's good.
Chris, give us some thought to the bus service along with Express
Yeah,
and stops and things.
they'll be part of the stakeholders group when we're talking schedules and all that stuff. They'll be at the table for those discussions and
Okay.
make adjustments accordingly.
Okay.
Thank you. One of the things that we talked about, and I really appreciate your feedback on this, is some type of a monthly is maybe too early, maybe not, but some type of a in-person engagement that we could invite businesses to come to. Be it here at City Hall, we could have it at a coffee shop, I mean, wherever, but just have kind of almost like, I hate to call it town hall or a meet and greet, because it's really not that, but it's really like a greeters type thing. But you could come, say, hey, tell us where we're falling short, where you're not getting the information, you know, what didn't you hear about that surprised you? How can we fix that going forward? So some type of a place where people just know, okay, if I go on this date, I know I can get Chris's ear, I get Chelsea's ear, I can, you know, talk to whoever and complain or make recommendations or suggestions, that kind of stuff. So, I mean, we do, now they say, I mean, you could do like an ongoing like suggestion box, which we have a drop box that could be a suggestion box, but I like the engagement. Like this has been really helpful today. So like this type of a situation, but I don't know what to call it. I mean, is it
You have it state of construction.
state of construction
We'd be
meeting?
happy to host that too. We're right in the heart of the construction. If you can get to us.
Or maybe we piggyback it with the chamber luncheon too, that either maybe right after the luncheon or before, that might be a good
That's a really good
time
idea.
to do it. I mean, you
Maybe
have a,
after people's bellies are full and
Yeah.
They're all ready to go.
if they want to stay, they can, if you or
Just don't
Chelsea
do
are
the
there.
raffle.
Yeah. Maybe right after the meeting, probably not before, because then it can go probably later.
Talk to Pastor Lucky, see if you could use the room for even an extra hour,
Yeah.
probably more than enough.
They don't normally have anything right after us, so that might be something.
All right, help me with the name. What are we calling this thing?
Ooh. Tanya's really good at names.
I mean, I don't mind doing it monthly. I'm gonna be there anyway. It's not I mean, it's really would be really helpful, and Chelsea's been coming to those now. It actually, all joke aside, it'd be very, very helpful to just have people know that we're gonna be there. And if you're having
Yeah.
issues, we want to hear from you. And if you're already there anyway, or you know we're gonna be there, come out of your way and come and sit down.
We've been we have 44 people signed up for tomorrow, and we don't have the students this month. So, I mean, it's quite a few people that I think if they're already there, they may stay. If you have another meeting, it might be hard to get people to come because people are so busy. So,
I think there's gonna be two sides to this project though, too. There's the side, you know, where, you know, we've got to keep our businesses running. And then there's the construction interfering with the facilities piece. So
What do you
the
mean by
communication is gonna be
facilities?
a little bit different. Well, I'm thinking, you know, Marty, he probably, he's not gonna be involved there or care much about how customers get to our building or this marketing, you know,
Yeah.
making sure that we're getting the word out, but a contact for issues that come up just on the property, surrounding the property.
Right. Okay.
It may be a much smaller network of people, I'm sure, but Public Works, where they don't get 1,000 emails from or back and forth.
sure.
Okay. I do want to kind of market this meeting as more than just like an update, because I do want it to be seen as more like a feedback where we're getting input, as opposed to just I'm going to show up and I'm going to have a 10-minute presentation with an update here. But it's really not about me pushing out. It's really kind of more of a listening session, which I can provide updates. I mean, I'll tell you what I know off the top of my head on where we're at and stuff, but really I'm just point people back to the website. I'm really going to be there more to like, have we had issues that I'm not aware of? Are the concerns you have about something that you've heard about or coming up? It's the hearsay squash meeting or whatever it's going to be.
Did Florence have any nightmares?
Does what?
Did Florence have any
Florence?
nightmares during their?
You know, I gave Chelsea a document that was written up by the mayor of Estacada. They did a project. Theirs was only, I think, 4 or 5 months long. It was one summer. But after it was done, he took the time and wrote up 3 or 4 pages of lessons learned, and it was really helpful and insightful. And actually, one of the recommendations that he made was to have this type of a meeting and to talk to the community and the business owners about a communication plan. What's needed? What aren't we thinking about? And to have a plan and write it out and publish it, right? Put that on the site. Here's what we're going to do. So you can be held accountable, that this is what we're gonna do, and you hold yourself accountable. So this was one of the ideas that came out of their regular scheduled meeting. They did, I think they just call them town halls. They did 2 town hall meetings where they just knew on this date, we're gonna have a meeting, on this date, we're gonna have a meeting, and anybody from public can come and talk to us about the project. Right, and which we could do more of like a town hall style to have the council present and really talk about it from the city's perspective. Then the council can hear complaints and get updates from staff and kind of help resolve issues that are coming up and help brainstorm with things. So maybe that's a separate bullet point, would be to do some planned town halls and just refer to them as that.
And you're talking in addition to like the chamber.
Mhm. Yeah, not in lieu of, this would be in addition to, and I don't know, we do a ton of those, but maybe if you know, 3 months in from the project, we're gonna have a town hall, then that gives people some time to be like, okay, what am I seeing? What am I hearing? What am I concerned about? I don't need to call Chris right now, but I'm gonna go to that meeting, get the updates, and I might have a few questions kind of thing. So if people know that that's scheduled, then maybe that helps. This monthly meeting, I'm gearing it more towards, I think, the business owners, as opposed to the general public, which are gonna have to be dealing with traffic. And there's just the normal driver resident out there that's gonna have different ways of getting, they're not typically calling me up and complaining. They're gonna talk to the neighbors and come to city hall and come to city council meeting, and they're gonna complain there. So we want to give them a venue that's different than this chamber, I think, post-chamber luncheon type meeting. All right. Last chance. Anybody want to name this thing? If not, I'm going to turn it over to Chelsea and let her name it.
She'll think of it at 4 in the morning.
Yeah, or tomorrow morning in the shower.
That's what I was doing.
All right.
Get your pen in bed. That's good.
Wait,
Get this not in the middle of the night. That's why it's funny. There you go.
Okay, if you think of something, dry off, get dressed, call me.
Okay, so I'm up at 4 in the morning, so just so you know.
Just email it.
Dry off, get dressed, do your thing. 8 o'clock, you can call me.
Okay.
Send an email, they'll read it when you.
That's
There
right.
you go.
It is surprising that when the chamber sends out the emails and then you can see the report of what time people open it, that it is like from, 7 at night, all through the night, people are opening their emails.
Cool.
Can't sleep. Or things their phone, I don't know.
The last bullet point is chamber council liaison reports to community organizations. So if you don't know, each of the council members are assigned one or more organizations in the community to be a liaison to. So Columbus Community Services, PYAC, the chamber, Frolic, whatever. And so part of that responsibility is to do some outreach and to either go to board meetings or have a relationship with the board president or the director, and just try to have that engagement and feedback on building relationships between the city and those organizations. And so this bullet point is just, again, we're going to try to keep the council informed. They're going to get updates at a minimum once a month during our meetings, if not more regularly. They'll probably all be signed up on the weekly, right? So they're going to be pretty up to speed on this project. The intent is for them to be able to be that liaison. So if PYCs have an ongoing problem and Eddie and I are talking about it and that's not good enough and somebody else needs to get a hold of the mayor, then they've got a liaison that they can kind of get through and get that done. So that's just part of the outreach we're going to do. Again, less maybe on the business side of their direct chamber liaison. Who's our chamber liaison to you right now? Do you know?
I think it's.
I am,
Is it Dave?
yeah, and the mayor, I think there's 2 of us, right?
That's
But
right.
yeah,
That's
I
right.
was-
So if you have questions, contact me. So we'll do that outreach as well. What am I missing? What questions do you have that I haven't answered, or what other ideas of things that weren't even thought about by Chelsea and I kind of brainstorming this for a little bit? What else would be helpful specific to the businesses and business owners, or also include in their kind of residents directly impacted? what else could we do to make sure that we're getting the word out to them?
So it's ultimately ODOT or the contractor's responsibility to like coordinate with us, for example, because we have 2 locations off of, 13th and Applegate, where we're going in
Mhm.
there to be letting us know prior,
Yes. So you will, on those, you will get to know the contractor.
right?
The contractor is a business. They will have somebody that's in charge of the business relations, customer relations, all that kind of stuff, right? And they're going to be on site pretty much every day, right? So they're going to be either the lead worker or the lead, I mean, there'll be some person that's the lead contact. They have the responsibility to be reaching out about driveway access, notifying and doing all stuff. So yeah, this is kind of on top of all that. You won't be calling the city saying, hey, Chris, I'm worried about my access. I'm going to refer you to the contractor to say, yeah, let's make sure Steve or Jane or whoever it is knows that's what's happening. And you'll coordinate directly with them. You kind of bypass the city and that's who you need to deal with. This is again up and beyond any of that, just to kind of give you that notice ahead of time. Like, we want you to know 2 weeks ahead of time,
Right.
they're going to be there. This is the schedule, they're going to be there, so that you know, and here's the person to contact. So then you're going to know to make that contact. Hey, I'm concerned about this, work out issues, drive-throughs, access.
Well, I think that's going to be the hard part for, for the city is getting all the complaints when it's an ODOT thing.
Right.
It's going to be a city issue, not an
I
ODOT.
will.
thing.
Can you set us up another line? Complaint line.
That's right.
Zero.
Press 0.
And then that automatically.
Thank
charges
you.
voicemail is full.
That's true. We could do a thing to ODOT.
Good. Or ODOT.
Call forward, call forward, all the complaint lines go straight.
When I start forwarding the phone over to Spindrift or Compton and then I'm taking the calls from there, you'll know that it's reached a.
Just don't say it. Don't give him his cell phone number.
What comes to mind? What are your bigger concerns?
Me?
No, sorry, I'm looking behind you to Joe.
Oh, Joe.
Sorry. Joe's been quiet all meeting, so I got to pick on him a little bit.
I mean, for me, it's pretty basic of, can cars get in and out, and that's really like the only way, and,
What's the best way that you communicate with your customers? Like letting your customers know that they're gonna have to like go around the block to get to you. I mean, how do you get that information out to your customers where we can make that easier for you?
For
Yeah.
me, a lot of people, it'd be, for me updating online, like if they
Okay.
search for me, if I can find a way to throw it in online, like, because most of the new people who haven't been to me before, they look it up on their phone first, and so that'd be more for me on, social media to have it pop up and be accessible to them.
Most of your customers probably have appointments, so you can at least
Yeah.
tell them.
Yeah.
It would be like you
I
that
heard
don't have, people are not, anytime they're coming, they're not
Like a
making an
destination.
appointment.
Yeah,
Right.
you know you're going right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have text reminders and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Email, even though for us, a lot of people rather just have a text reminder.
But you mentioned Facebook posts. So I mean, you're using Facebook for a lot of.
For us, actually, it's more, I'd say Instagram and that
Instagram
kind
more.
of stuff. But
Okay.
most of the crowd, I think that we get is not younger people, on social media as often. Or if they are, that's not how that's not how they're, a lot of what we get is word of mouth, and then, Google search is how we're
Okay.
found. So.
So like Lisa said, it's probably going to be on you when they call. You're going to say, hey, we're in construction. You're going to have to go around the block, whatever it is.
that
Yeah.
or automatic.
They're automatic, yeah.
reminders For their appointment,
Okay.
that information, so knowing, you can't access, coming in from something like that, having that kind of information.
That's
Okay.
what I mean. It's gonna be harder for someone like Kathy to put that word out
For sure.
because you don't know when your customers are coming.
And I think that honestly, we do have a lot of people that park on the street and come in. they go to Willamette Hose and then they come to the bank, and park all along there. That'll all be gone, right? There won't be any Main Street parking in the construction.
While the construction's there, correct, yeah, or across the street, because people will be driving there.
Yeah. Do you have overflow? Do you have?
I try not to. But, yeah, I mean.
He often does.
They'll be parking for this.
I said he often does have overflow.
I know. I'm trying to-
Look at this big lot right here. You can just service the
Park at the
cars.
rodeo grounds.
Well, I put in there kind of Facebook and Instagram. Again, Chelsea's a little bit more of a whiz at that kind of stuff than what I am, and Ruth's very good on that too. So, you know, if we're getting feedback that customers are going to Instagram, I mean, it's not that much more effort for us to do a Facebook and an Instagram and do it. We don't currently have an Instagram account, but maybe this would be something where we can float those out, and those one-liners will be a little bit easier to get out through Instagram. Maybe we just isolate it to Streetscapes rather than doing like all city stuff on Instagram, which is just a time sink. It just takes a lot of time to do all that stuff, as you all know. Okay, sorry to pick on you, Joe, but that's good feedback.
Yeah.
So, any concerns, Pioneer?
When I can think it was larger trucks with freight deliveries. They have access from 14th to 13th or vice versa. They shut one down. Picked it back out
Mm-hmm,
Oh, I know.
or loaded in the street.
mm-hmm. Yep,
You have secondary gate. And that's the other way it's gonna be blocked off. We can open that up if we have to.
They can't make the turn.
They can't, yeah, they can't make the turn.
sure, yeah.
Have to unload them in the street.
Will the
That would be, could be an issue.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that would be, do you know when those deliveries are coming?
Not
Not
necessarily.
necessarily.
Maybe Tanya can come at 4 a.m.
Set shit up.
So they'll,
But it's a lot of times it's, it's fiber, it's reels, it's pallets.
so they'll have, yeah. I'm just gonna say it out loud. I mean, they'll have like some detour signs at certain times to get traffic like down 19th and the Chapel and around, or vice versa. I'm not sure if that's the exact pattern. It might even go Chapel all the way to Philomath Boulevard and up through. I don't remember what they settled on. We looked at different ideas for just kind of having that through. But for the individual businesses, it may come on you. So what I may look at doing is talking through with them on location specific signs, like delivery, detour, or, something like that, that's more specific. That doesn't need to be at your spot all the time, but definitely when they're there, maybe I get a little bit better idea, and I can take this on. Maybe I'll give this to Gary to look at what kind of local signage are they going to have there for detours, moving stuff around, whatever. I mean, they're going to have some of that sitting around. They're not going to need every sign at every, say, block or 2 block integer, but they're going to need some of that, almost at all of them, right? As they move through town, they're going to have small stuff, driveway temporary closed, take next ride, or a lot of kind of stuff. So my note to myself is to look at like local detour signs, no deliveries, or deliveries take 13th Street or whatever. And some of that might go back to you as a business owner. Like, I know 2 weeks from now, they're going to be here. So if we're going to have freight deliveries, where do we need to put some signage so that our freight knows to loop around the block instead of pull into the driveway like they usually do? But I think it's a good to start having that discussion and see what are they going to have, what could we have that we could lend to you, rather than you having to go and pay $300 for a sign that you're going to use for 2 weeks and then throw it away, and then the next person needs it next week. Maybe we get some more universal signs that can be helpful for more people, and then we could just loan those out as needed, kind of thing. So
Because we would have to probably do it on 13th, right? And have the forklift. So we would block off the road.
We can actually detour or refer them to the construction yard. So we have forklift out there too, and the riders have to shut them.
And we have the overflow yard, so with coordination, knowing when they're gonna be there, we could coordinate, have our deliveries at those 2 yards, not we'd have to shuttle it in our trucks.
Yeah, that might be hard though on
Might
some
be.
things.
It could be, but
What are the chances that both 13th and right in front of our businesses are gonna be closed at the same time or down?
hopefully not.
You said 13th is part of the project.
Yeah, I don't know where it falls compared to the others. I'm not sure.
We take that old washer rack, you can use that, make it like there.
Hey, cool. Yeah. The big truck could come right in there and get the alleyway.
Okay.
Then we had to pick up his trailer and turn around and send him out the same way.
We're at 4:30. I appreciate all of your time and your insights and your thoughts. Again, if you think of other things, I would say give Chelsea a call. I'd say me, but really I'm gonna talk through this with Chelsea and give her my notes, and she's really gonna take the lead on this. So feel free to reach out to Chelsea and contact her if you think of something. You can always reach out to our council members on the Public Works Committee. I think I have what I needed. This is really good. I feel like it's much better now than where we were coming into this. So I appreciate your time, and I'll turn it back over to our chair.
Thank you very much. We have, for the committee, we have 3 options. To advise staff on additional ideas for communication efforts, including volunteer assistance to complete tasks. I think we've sort of already accomplished that. Request staff to move forward with presented plans, plan and include ideas for volunteer assistance to complete tasks. I would expect these ideas to be incorporated into the plan. And third, request staff to move forward with presented plan with no additional volunteer assistance. Not a good idea.
Yeah, let's do that one.
So I'm going to go for number 2 if you concur with.
I would concur.
Okay.
So I think we will with that. So we'll get this to Chelsea. We'll write up the plan. We'll bring that plan back to you. Unless if you want to just bring it, we just bring it back to the city council. And say we've added this out of the Public Works Committee. We added some stuff. Here it is, and give the council a look at it. Or do you want it to come back to this committee first and then go to the council?
Yeah, I
Okay,
think we can go to it.
so we'll just plan on that.
Next meeting is October 1st at 3:00 PM.
Yeah.
So it's in a couple of weeks.
The next Public Works Committee.
Next public works meeting. October 1st? No, that's a Saturday. Sorry. You said you wanted to work a Saturday and that's I was trying to think. It's October 6th. October 6th.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
It's at 4 o'clock.
which wouldn't give us enough time to turn something around to get it in front of council. So I think we just plan on the 10th.
It's 4 o'clock because it's the tree board and a couple of those members can't make it till 4.
So,
Okay, but the public works committee can start at 3, right? If the tree board can't start till 4.
So will that include an update on the heritage tree program?
That was the only reason we were meeting.
Oh,
For the
good.
So for that, okay, perfect.
Okay, the only other thing I wanted to hear an update upon was the SS4A transportation grants. Do you have any information on that?
I need to get going. You probably do too.
yeah.
No, feel free to
I
go.
need to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So which one? Sorry.
This-
Or I'll come down and see you.
I take it the answer is.
Lisa,
no.
first.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wouldn't get far because my car wouldn't start.
Thank you.
We're just not getting that. Is that safe routes to school?
When I go to get my key fob, I mean, I don't even have to have a
This is
key.
for, I'm sorry. I didn't put this together. I'm not sure if the SS4A or granted process.
Well, maybe
Oh, no.
you're-
I think I'm not sure why it's on here. I
Okay.
believe the SS4A, those are, the deadline's coming due for those. When my look at them was they're very highly targeted towards low income, high risk, fatality statistic driven, like intersections and roads. And my first blush was we wouldn't qualify, you know, we probably wouldn't be in the higher up for that. If those are the federal grants that I think that they're referring to, there was this big push to get your projects in. We just don't have data on, you know, fatalities on roadways that would make us eligible for that. And that's really what that's targeting.
Okay,
So did you say that this should not be part of these minutes then, or we maybe touched on it, but we?
Maybe we talked about it and we're gonna look into it. Let me find out more and double check though. I'm concerned that I'm just not familiar with that acronym.
So when we approve the minutes, should we not approve? Or-
I think they're okay because we were
Well-
gonna check on it. I just,
Okay,
yeah, I think the minutes are probably fine.
okay, that's just.
Just an update. And Kevin, I've been wanting to tell you how nice all of the chip seal work looks. Gary, how nice. I think it looks really good. And if I recall correctly, you had not used that firm before.
And not, I've been wanting to, but just never got the opportunity.
And were you happy with the work?
Extremely happy.
Oh, boy.
One thing I'm not happy about is a chip truck turned on 18th Street,
Yeah.
and chip trucks and chip seal don't do very well.
Oh,
And it already buttered it up pretty good.
oh.
Chip truck guy was not supposed to be on 18th Street. It's not a through street.
Oh.
Huh.
Not very happy about it.
Okay,
I don't know who it is, otherwise I'd send him a bill, but
Mm.
we think it came from Thompson's Timber, the sort yard there, but I don't know who it is.
yeah,
And it's the same contract that did Mount Union?
It is, yes.
Nice job there too.
They did
Yeah.
all of the streets. and everything.
now we had, Teresa and I had a citizen come up to us when we were at the farmer's market. And he was asking about Mount Union, which he was under the impression was all city property, which I don't believe it is. And he wanted his end of the
Yes,
street
he had
improved.
reached out to us, yes.
Okay,
Yeah, we've been working with him. It's Kevin and I.
and what is it part city property and part county or?
I'm not 100% sure we've ironed that out, which is which, so.
Oh.
Because it was county at one time and they tried to hand it over to the city. I'm not really sure where that line is yet, so.
Okay,
It's a delicate subject. We didn't do that portion he wanted.
Yeah, I know
Time,
it is.
Be honest with you, I'm pretty sure it was county, and I don't know what it is today, so
Okay. Well,
we're working on it.
I appreciate the information.
Wish I had more information.
Okay, that's all I have. Is there anything else?
No, I think I'm fine. Well, actually, if I could, just quickly, because we didn't, Teresa Nielsen, Councilor Nielsen, we didn't have time at the council meeting on Monday, but this is getting an official record, and I think it reflects well on the city. This has to do with the planning of the reservoir and water treatment plant that's coming up. And Councilor Nielsen and I met with, Gary and Kevin, with the city engineer, to take a look at exactly what was happening. For me, it was kind of a dual role with Phillips Community Services, since I'm involved there, but it was also very helpful from a councilor perspective, and I think for Councilor Nielsen, it was really effective too. So we learned a lot there, and we were able to bring that back to when we did the farmers market this past Sunday, where we were there. No, you and I were there.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
But
You and Teresa were the ones who were
you're still the
updated.
chair. Like football again. So anyway, Councilor Nielsen and I were there, and because she had been part of the, she had been part of that, so she knows a lot. And then when Councilor Kazi and I were at the meeting on Sunday, we were able to handle all the questions that citizens had. They weren't too extensive, really. But the facts that we had, especially with the engineers report, being able to show people where things were, and it really, really helped. And I think if we had skeptical people at the beginning, they kind of went away feeling good.
Feeling better at
Feeling
least.
better.
That's good.
Yeah, we
so-
were able to, I gave out 30 bottles of water. So some of which David and I drank, some of which went to a few kids, but we were able to talk a couple of people off the ledge and tell them we weren't going to take the whole park.
Mhm.
And there was a fascinating young man who was interested in making the fencing around the reservoir more attractive. And so I would like to talk to whoever is going to be involved with that, and possibly the Streetscapes Public Art Committee, and see if we can.
Are you talking Malcolm over here on Ninth Street? He does the wood fences.
No, these were
No?
actually ideas that involved chain link fences, but putting in colors or weaving in colors so the fence becomes more decorative and attractive. And they were such cool ideas.
Not a bad idea. I mean, who wants to look at an ugly fence all day long?
Right.
So whomever it would be appropriate to talk to, I'd like to talk to about those ideas.
I'll be a big guy over there.
If we know for sure we're doing that, I think our specs always called for the vinyl slats and chain link fence all around them, so they're not see-through, but if we have a definite buy-in on that, we could certainly spec that the fence didn't have those, and as long as they got, woven in or taken care of, it would work.
Yeah.
Well for us.
And there is going to be some landscaping around it, isn't there? Some trees or
I'm
something.
sure there will be. I know inside asphalt, right? Around it or concrete around it.
The asphalt with a chain link just off the edge of it. And then we gathered several pounds of camas seed and bulbs that are going to be planted, or the plan was to plant them back up on the bank and get that all grown up. Until there will be more trees out through the area.
Yeah. Okay.
I will tell you, if we want to go with the woven type fence, it's a lot easier to buy it that way than to put it in later. I mean, it's just a time consumer, put it in instead of having somebody at the factory do it. So,
You mean the woven slats?
yeah, if we did the woven
Yeah.
slats, because I know like the police department, they had the Boy Scouts do it, and it took them, all day type of thing. And it doesn't look very good, they put them upside down and some are hanging down, and so it does take a while to do those, because you gotta link them in and tie them in, so.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll send you guys some pictures.
I mean, if they want to do something, we probably would want to get in on it in this stage now, instead of waiting until it's in place. 'Cause
Yeah.
Then becomes more time consuming.
Good idea.
Get
Okay,
a commitment for sure.
great. Anyway, it was really fun talking to people, and it really attracted the engineers.
Well, when we met with Dave and Teresa, they asked some great questions. They asked some fantastic questions, especially about the community garden or the community center, how they were gonna deal with some of their issues, because they're the ones who've been most affected by this whole structure. So I do appreciate the questions you guys have.
Yeah.
And then just take off of that, Councilor Nielsen and I are going to be meeting with Curtis Nelson, who's general manager at Hughes Excavation, I think Monday, just to also kind of brief them on what's going on, because I'm not sure if they know exactly how it's going to work for them. But again, with the engineers have, that'll be great.
Cool.
Okay.
Have you had discussions yet about the moving of the garbage dumpsters and the smoking shack and stuff that?
Well, have not done the garbage this month yet. I want to talk to the board. We have a board meeting next Thursday. The smoking shack we have brought up, and it's interesting. It's no longer a smoking shack, it's a break shack. Because we know smoking's verboten. So now oh, I can't move that, Shannon. And we don't use it for smoking, we use it for all these other things. Well, there's a cloud of smoke over it. You know, whatever that means. But yeah, we will take care of that. And we'll probably put that behind, in the back of PCS building. There's some stuff going on, and we'll go back there. But the Republic, yeah, we need to work on that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if there's nothing else, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you guys for coming. It's so
Yeah,
good to
thank you.
see you. It's been a while.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Council.
My pleasure.